Okay, Jimane Nelson is. Oops, too early. Okay, so Jimane Nelson is the guy who played the craziness on the Kim Burrell Everlasting Life album. And as you can hear, his chords are otherworldly. They literally defy imagination. So you guys check them out. So let's figure this out together, add these chords to our vocabulary. Okay, so the first thing I do is to write down the notes to the melody. And I do this in order to tie one note per chord. It also helps me to make the melody the focal point. This line that he's using is just simply a major scale. We call it a descending major scale. For instance, if we're in the key of C, we know to go up like this. We can keep going. And if we were in D flat, we'd go like this. And the chords that he used is simply based on a major scale, but it's going down. This will give me a lot of ideas on how I can use these chords in other songs. Secondly, I wrote the lyrics, and I find it's helpful to find harmonies by singing the lyrics. In fact, if you listen to him, that's exactly what he did here.
Have fun, see what we got.
And anybody could do this. You don't have to be a singer. You're just trying to tie the chord to the melody note and tie it to the lyrics. Now it's time to find out the chords and help you with the chords. So I used the method that I found and described in this video. And in this video, I hypothesized that when trying to figure out chords by ear, your ear will first search from your own library of chords to see if it recognizes any. And if you look at this graphic here, you'll see these chords here. The chord names are in red. Now I kept some in black because the ones that are in black were the ones that I don't use often. In other words, I don't use these in songs, so my ear didn't recognize them as easily. Look at the chord on the word hands. So that chord there, I didn't recognize. What I recognized was the major 7. And if I take off the E flat, you'll see this. As you could see, a close chord would be the F sharp or G flat minor 7, flat 5, actually G flat since we're in the key of D flat. But there's an E flat in there. And again, I just don't use this chord. Do you often use this chord? If it's not a chord that I use in songs often, I say that it's not in my vocabulary. Therefore, my ear doesn't recognize it as easily. But I definitely recommend you add this chord. Really nice chord here. So go ahead and steal this one. Now, these other 2 chords are really cool as well, and I didn't recognize them, but I want you to listen to these. They're really simple chords, but they're so dope, man. So watch this right here. Oh my goodness, that one right there. Now that those are some crazy chords, right? I definitely didn't recognize those 2 chords there. So I have them in black just as a visual reminder for me that maybe I need to learn these chords and start using them. But first, let's go ahead and play the chords as we see them. Beautiful chords. And someone's going to say, well, I still don't know how this can help me. Well, even in a little song like Mary Had a Little Lamb, if we tie the notes in the chart and simply replace the chords of Mary Had a Little Lamb and line up the melody and harmony notes that I told you to focus on, then you have an entirely new set of chords. And we took some liberties with some notes, but just using the chords that we learned today, we can totally reharmonize Mary Had a Little Lamb. Okay, and lastly, I spelled out the chords note by note. And the problem I have is some of you actually start with this step. But I think if you start with the step that I started with, start with the melody, then the lyrics, then the chord names, and then you spell out the chords. And the only reason I'm spelling out the chords, well, number one, is to help those of you who are on my website so that you guys can see actually how the chords are built note by note. But also for my ear, this is where I kind of fix any notes that may be off, or I don't nitpick this too much, right? Because otherwise I'd be here all day. But I get close enough to where I feel like I've gotten most of the errors down. So let's see if we can get as close to him as possible.
Have fun, see what we got.
And of course, for those of you signed up to the website, you guys can go ahead and log in, and we'll have that whole part there, including that end part. That's really cool as well. Just search for Jimane. But first, someone asked me last week, how do you gain vocabulary? And the first step is identifying what is not in your vocabulary. Any chord that you cannot use in a song is not in your vocabulary. Just like I had recognized this chord here that I did not recognize because I could not use it in a song means that it would not be in my vocabulary. And some of you may need to go back and say, you know what? The first chord, that B major 7, the A major 7, I wouldn't know where to use those. And if that's the case, then your ear doesn't hear them as well. But see, the best way to build vocabulary is to actually memorize songs and to do it the way that we just said today, and make sure that you can understand each chord and can use them in context, because it's when you apply things, that is when you will use them the best. Those of you who want to gain vocabulary, go ahead and search on my channel. You'll see a whole bunch of songs all broken down. And if you want to go even further into this process, go ahead and sign up on the website, where you will see the rest of this song and every other song I've done on YouTube, as well as live trainings and everything else to help you grow as a musician. Thanks again, and we'll see you next time.